begin in a few minutes. This is yoga. It's not yoga with Joyful today because she's inside. She doesn't like to come outside. And we may have some interruptions today in that Air Force One is practicing takeoffs and landings, and we are sort of in the flight zone. So they just went by, and they're likely to come by some more. So we may have some unexpected pauses in our practice. We don't need any props for today's practice. This is going to be a simple practice. And as always, if this is your first time, you don't need to push anything. If I invite you to do something and your body doesn't want to do it, please don't do it. This is your practice. The goal is that we feel better when we get up off our mat than we did coming to the mat. So this needs to be within your comfort level. We'll be holding poses for several breaths, so you don't need to push at anything, because just by holding the poses, it allows our body the opportunity to open a little bit more. There's no need to push. This is your practice. Yoga Journal is not coming today to photograph my practice or your practice. This is just for us. So be thankful to yourself that you've set this 45 minutes or so aside for yourself, for self-care, to allow yourself to feel a little bit better within your body. So we'll wait just a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. So find some place that's comfortable for you. This is, again, your practice. You don't need to do everything to look exactly like me. Just make the approximation that your body is comfortable with doing today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Find a comfortable seated position. I'm sitting cross-legged. This position is called Sukhasana, which translates to easy pose. If this is not comfortable for you, find a different pose that is comfortable for your body. You could sit on your heels or sit on a chair. Sit with your legs extended, whatever's comfortable for you. So find your comfortable seat and then close your eyes. And begin to allow yourself to settle into your seat bones. Shoulders hang down. Back is flat. Belly is soft. Notice your two seat bones. Allow your hips to begin to soften. Belly is soft. Breath is easy. Just noticing how your body feels at the beginning of our practice. Allow yourself to experience the environment around you. I've chosen to be outside today. We've got the birds in the background, my flowers. Open your eyes, interlace your fingers, palms away, arms overhead, gently stretching from side to side, looking underneath the opposite arm as you open that side body, feeling that your seat bones stay as even as possible. The opposite seat bone wants to jump up, and you can remind both seat bones to stay grounded. Doesn't have to be a big movement. This is just a beginning to open, beginning to mobilize the spine. And release your hands, interlace your hands behind you, shoulder blades together in the back, collarbones long. lift your hands up off the mat, looking upward, opening the heart center. Release your hands. Right hand down, left arm up overhead, grounding that left seat bone, looking up under the left arm, just opening the side body. Just allowing your body to open slowly. And then press up, switch sides. Press up, simple twist to the right. So the left hand to the right knee, right hand out behind you as a kickstand, allowing the twist to originate inside your pelvis, comes up through the low back, the rib cage, and the twist ends at the neck, okay? So the neck is not included in the twist. So my gaze is straight out over my sternum. Allowing that right shoulder blade to come towards the midline of the body. Left shoulder blade comes away from the midline of the body. Just allowing the twist to be soft. This is a soft twist. And then inhale, come back to center. And switch your hands out. So right hand to the left knee, left hand out behind you as a kickstand. Allowing that twist to unwind your spine. As you inhale, maybe a little taller. As you exhale, maybe a little bit more twist without any force, no force. Inhale, come to center, place your hands out in front of you, and walk your hands out any amount, understanding that none is an amount. So this is a hip opener, probably noticed that. Gaze is upward, forward or upward. Back is flat. Just allowing things to open as much as they're interested in right now. No pushing, no force. And walk your hands back out. Right leg straightens, goes out to the side, turning to face that right leg, and then coming forward any amount. The right leg is as straight as it's interested in being. It doesn't have to be completely straight. If it's too tight on your hamstring, you can bend the knee a little bit more. So back is flat, gaze is forward. I'm still feeling a back bend in the upper chest, so it's still a heart opener. And this is a hip opener for that bent leg side. You probably noticed that already. Janu Shirshasana, which means knee head pose, and sometimes it's translated head to knee, and sometimes it's translated head of the knee. Janu Shirshasana. And press up. Great loving kindness, bend that knee, bring it back in, let the left leg extend out to the side. Turn to face that left leg. You may hear Joy crying in the background. She's at the door with her nose pressed to the screen. Feeling heart opening, back is flat, gaze is upward. Notice that one side is different than the other. That's normal. As riders, we constantly strive to at least be aware of the differences from one side to the other. That's the first step. And the second step is to minimize the differences from one side to the other. Janu Shirshasana. Press back up. Now both legs come out to the side. It doesn't have to be your widest spread apart, but then come walk forward. And if your adductors or hamstrings are tight, this may be your pose, okay? You may have no forward bend in it. This may be your forward bend. But if you're okay, you can start to walk out a little bit. And again, this doesn't have to be worthy of the cover of Yoga Journal. This is about opening our bodies to where they're interested in going today. That's all. So for me, right now, I'm feeling a pull in the adductors. I had a nice long ride this morning and my adductors are a little bit tight. So it feels tight, but this is also really helpful to me to start to release that back to comfort. But that adductor. And again, as riders, it's really important that everything around our core and our trunk and our upper thigh be as symmetrical as possible. And for sure that we know how our bodies operate, how my body operates. As an instructor, I need to know how your body operates, but you need to know how your body operates. And yoga is a great tool to help you figure that out. First of all, what do you bring to your ride? And second, how can you become more symmetrical? And walk over to the left, noticing that one side is always easier. One side is always, therefore, harder. Isn't that interesting? This is so simple. You know, this is not complicated. This is never going to show up on the cover of Yoga Journal. And yet it's so valuable to learn this stuff about our own bodies. Now coming up, bring the soles of the feet together. Letting the thighs open out to the side as much as they're interested in doing today. Baddha Konasana. Baddha means bound. Kona is angle. Asana is seat or pose. So Baddha Konasana, bound ankle pose. And sometimes you'll hear this called by different names. Cobbler's pose, or sometimes it's called frog pose. We talked about different names for frog pose last week. And this is one pose that is called frog pose or Bekasana. But we're gonna use the traditional name of Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. And for me personally, this pose has had the most evolution in my own practice. When I started the practice, I looked more like this. So for my thighs to be down like this, for my hips to be this open, is a huge achievement for me personally. And I have friends for whom this is not any challenge at all, and their hips just go flat down. That's not the case with this body. So I'm really interested to notice the progression of opening over time. So I've had an active practice for about 25 years, and this is the pose that has changed the most during my practice. Isn't that interesting? It's interesting to me. It's such a simple pose. So now, fold your knees up together very carefully. And move around a little bit. So we're going to go into a deeper hip opener now. Cow face pose, Gomukhasana. And we're just going to do the leg position of that. And this is a very strong hip opener. So be very, very kind to yourself and allow yourself to be wherever your body wants it to be. I'm going to go fairly deeply into the pose, and you may not. Okay, so I'm going to take my left leg and fold it underneath me so that that thigh faces forward, and then bring my right leg on top so my knees are stacked. And you may not stack, okay? You might look more like this, you might look like that. It's okay, it's all good. Okay, well, this is a fairly traditional way to do it. And I'd like my pelvis to be as symmetrical as possible. It's inherently an asymmetrical pose, so it's not going to be completely symmetrical. And we're just going to rest here for a little while. I apologize to the lawn mowing. I have no control over that. So just really breathe into your hips. This is not supposed to be a comfy position. Here comes Air Force One again. So this is a pose that I like to hold for a fairly long period of time. The hips are surrounded by dense, fibrous connective tissue. And as we, shall we say, mature, that fibrous tissue tends to scrunch down and take some of the mobility away from our hips. And the fibrous, dense, the ligaments, and tendons, and fascia around the hips. This pose helps allow that to begin to soften and open. So we hold it to allow all that soft tissue the opportunity to release. The bad news is it takes a long time. The good news is once it's released, it won't smush back up quickly. It will tend to stay released. So that's the good news. And like I said before, this is not supposed to be a super comfy position that you want to spend the day in. But it's incredibly valuable to help release the outer hips particularly. All right, to come out, lean back. Great loving kindness. Draw that top leg up. Uncross it. Draw that bottom leg up. And wiggle around a little bit. And notice what your mobility feels like now. Okay, so that's actually quite a bit of release right away in, 2 minutes? right leg. Bring the left leg on top. And I'd like to stack my knees. This way's a little bit tighter for me, so they don't stack quite as well this direction. But I'm able to keep my pelvis more stable, so that's good. And there's an arm position that goes with this pose, and we're not going to do that today. We're just going to let the arms do whatever they want. So really breathing into those hip joints, sending nourishment and circulation and release into the dense connective tissue and allowing it the opportunity to begin to soften. To come out, lean back, great loving kindness, untangle that top leg and then the bottom leg, and move around. And notice how you feel, because this is a big release. You know, it's not the most luscious pose to stay in, but the effect is amazing. It feels pretty amazing. Okay, now we come to hands and knees. Notice how you feel just in the beginning. And then we're going to start with cat and cow. So in cow pose, you look forward and it's the action of pulling your hands towards you, shoulder blades down the back. Inhale, exhale, push away, round the back up, angry cat spine. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. Feeling the mobility of your shoulder blade on your back. Come to neutral spine, let the right leg extend, find your balance, left arm extends. Tiger pose. And then ground back to table, left leg, right arm, find your balance. One side is always easier. Back to table, first side. And this time you're going to bring your arm and leg out to the side and back and forth. And notice how your core has to be stable here. Your abdominals are engaged. Breath is easy, really feeling balanced and strong. Come back to the table, left leg, right arm, then out and back. Back to table and rest in child's pose. And come back to table. Bring the right leg forward so that your left thigh is standing straight up and down. We're going to look at some hip openers here. So we did the outer hip, and now we're going to do the front hip. So make sure you're really stable. Back thigh is standing straight up and down. So we begin to release the quadricep in front of the thigh. Notice that this is also a balance pose. And now let that front leg come forward any amount. Opening the back thigh, the front of that back hip. And you're getting to the psoas, which is a long, skinny guy, deep inside. It originates on the spine at about the vicinity of your belly button, crosses the hip and inserts on the femur. So it's a major hip flexor. And what happens if the psoas is tight, it can cause back pain. So we don't like that. So here's a champion release for the psoas. And we're still in a little bit of a balance pose. And again, we're holding this for a fair amount of time to give the opportunity for the soft tissue to release. And we could do this as a strength pose, and that's not my focus today. Today I'm interested in a release of the soft tissue. So I'm taking some of the balance away from this and some of the strength away from this. I just want the muscles in front of that hip to feel like they can completely soften. And now we straighten that front leg any amount, and that opens the hamstring on the opposite leg. Gaze is forward. The leg doesn't have to be completely straight. And now release. Back to hands and knees. And then left leg forward, so the right thigh is standing straight up and down. Notice that one side is different than the other. Just allowing the opening of that quadricep, the big outer front muscle of the thigh. So the quadricep is in the first order of muscles, and what that means is it's closest to the surface. The psoas is in the fourth order, which means it's closest to the bones. So right now we're opening the outer thigh, the outer muscle of the thigh, the quadricep. Walk that left leg forward any amount so you can open that back hip a little bit more. So I'm looking for that back leg, the back hip, to be as open as possible today. I'm not a gymnast, certainly, and I'm not expecting y'all to be gymnasts. But we just want to make sure that we are comfortable in our everyday life, and as riders, we want to be as symmetrical as possible. So if you notice a big difference from one side to the other in your psoas, that sort of reminds you that you want to spend a little bit more time with whichever one is tighter. If your psoas is tight, it makes sitting trot be really difficult, and it keeps your lower back in an arched position, which is not a healthy position for your spine, and it's also not an effective position for your pelvis, because that puts your seat bones pointing back, and then your seat bones can't give clear aids. All right, now straighten that front leg any amount. Noticing one side is different than the other. Come back to table pose and then child's pose. And then come up, and we're going to come to standing. And I'm going to turn my mat sideways so you can see a little bit better. So we're going to play with Prasarita Padottanasana, which means wide apart, standing forward bend. So feet are as far apart as is comfortable for you, a little pigeon-toed, so toes point towards each other, and wider is easier, okay? When your feet are closer together, this is harder. So I'm going to put my hands on the pelvic rim, folding at the hip hinge, coming down, coming down, coming down, until my hands rest on something. If you don't reach the ground, you can keep your hands on your legs someplace. Back is flat, gaze is forward. And this should feel pretty accessible after the warm-up that we've done. So the knees are pretty straight, but not completely straight, not locked out. Toes point in. And we're going to do a couple of things from this position. So from here, bring the left hand towards the middle of your mat. Right arm goes up, gaze is up, so it's a little twist. And switch sides. And come back, and now walk your hands out a little bit. So now this is a leg wide apart, downward facing dog in that manner. Legs are almost straight, not locked out straight. Walk your hands back, and then walk your hands over to the right. Really grounding through both feet. Walk your hands over to the left. Come back to the middle and see if it's any different than it was in the beginning. Come back to the first position. And now you're going to bend the right leg and walk over to the right. Notice that now we're looking at strength, huh? And now straighten the right leg, bend the left leg, walk over to the left. And come up, go back to the right again. Back to the left. And come back to the middle and notice if it's any different. Now release that, come down to your mat. Come back to easy pose. And notice if that's different than it was when we started our practice. Hopefully it feels more easy. All right, we're not quite done with strength yet. So you're going to come to your back body, knees are bent, feet close to your buttocks. This is why I have a hat on. Hands underneath your body, shoulder blades pulled underneath. You're going to press up to bridge pose, Setu Bandhasana. Down and walk your feet close together so they're touching. And come up again. Really solid in your upper arm, in your shoulders. Lift the right leg. Right leg down, left leg up. Right leg down, left leg up, and notice any difference in strength between your two legs. Right leg down, left leg up. Left leg down, pelvis down. Draw your knees into your chest, wrap your hands around your knees, and rock from side to side. Let your feet come back down, knees are still bent, and you're going to stand your right leg straight up, and then let it fall out to the side. You can support it with that right hand if you like. So this is more about strength than how far you can go. So you can support the leg with your hand or not, okay? Supta Padangusthasana variation. And the leg comes up. And now it goes down towards your mat, but not all the way. You let it hover a few inches above your mat. Draw it back up. Down again. Draw it up. And place that foot on the floor. Now notice that as we let that leg go down, your activating the psoas. Earlier we stretched it, and this variation will strengthen it. So left leg straight up, and out to the side. Pelvis stays flat. You can support it with your hand or not. Up, out to the side. Up, and then that leg goes down towards the earth, but not all the way. Notice there's your psoas kicking in. Draw that leg up. That's your psoas activating. Back down. Can you feel it? Really deep muscle. Up. Down. Now fold that foot, place both feet on the mat, then draw your knees into your chest, wrap your hands around your knees and rock from side to side. Let your feet come back to the mat, but mat width apart. Pull each shoulder blade underneath your body. Make sure your pelvis is centered. Hands a little bit away from the body. Let both knees fall to the right, looking to the left. So this stretches the quadricep on that left leg, the left thigh. And it internally rotates the hip, so a little bit of stretch on the outer hip, but not as much as the hip stretches we did earlier. Inhale the knees up. Exhale to the left, looking to the right. Your Yodhasana. Inhale up. Exhale right, looking to the left. Up, exhale left, looking to the right, shoulders stay down. Inhale up, and you can let your legs stretch straight and flat on your mat. Lift it up. Pull each shoulder blade underneath your body so your palms face up. Allow yourself to settle into Shavasana. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Allow your hips to soften so your feet fall out to the side. Allow your brain to rest in the back of the skull. Eyes rest in the bottom of the socket. Facial features are soft. Breath is easy. Your tongue rests in the bottom of your mouth. Jaw slightly parted. Back of the neck is free. Throat is open. Feel your shoulder blades flat on the floor. Arms are heavy. Fingers slightly curled. Feel your shoulder blades flat on the mat. Rib cage rises and falls with the breath. belly is soft. Allow your organs to rest towards your back body. Lower back is wide and free. Feel your sacrum resting flat on the mat. Allow your hips to enjoy the opening that you've given them today. Legs are heavy. Feet are relaxed. And return to the sensation of the breath. Listen to the sounds around you. Feel the air on your skin. Notice how your body feels at this end of your practice. Notice any areas of softening or opening. Thank your body for allowing you to have a physical practice today. And now take a deeper breath. Begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Roll to your right side and rest there. And then press yourself up to seated. Bring your hands to heart center. Bow your head to your heart. I honor the place within you where the entire universe exists. I honor the place within you of peace, of joy, of light, and of love. I honor the place within you where, if you are in that place in you and I am in that place in me, there can be only one of us. Namaste. Rub your palms together to generate warmth. Place your palms over your closed eyes. Open your eyes into the darkness and return your hands to heart center. Thank you for joining me practice. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. I hope the rest of your day is amazing. Notice how you feel for the rest of the day. Drink lots of water and just notice how you feel moving around. I mean, that's the point of yoga, is that we feel better using our bodies. It's not about attaining a pose. It's about learning how to operate our bodies in a more efficient way. What a blessing is that? Thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it.